Everybody, Jeff, your executive gardener here. I hope everybody had a great, happy, healthy holiday season 2016. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Ramadan, whatever it is that you celebrate. I hope you had a great one. So as I look to close my 2016 calendar year here in Houston, Texas, it is the 26th of December. And on the 26th of December, it is 80 degrees. It's hot. A week ago, it was 30-some degrees. So crazy weather. I shouldn't complain because people in the north are probably telling me to shut up, and I deserve it. But anyway, as I look back in 2016, when you watch my channel, you see a lot of good things, I hope, but there's also a lot of failures. And I'm going to talk about perhaps the biggest fail that I had in Houston, Texas in 2016. And I think for the most part, I'm giving up on this part of gardening because of one particular reason, and that is composting. And the reason I'm giving up for it, I'm going to show you in a second. The reason I'm giving up is because I was unsuccessful in my tumbler and being able to produce healthy compost. And I'll explain why that is, but I want you to know that gardening is about trial and error. And there's going to be some things that you do well and things that you don't do well. So remove the things that you don't do well and focus on the things you do well. Now, some of the things you don't do well, you can learn from and make adjustments. I am unable to make the adjustment here in Houston, Texas on composting because of the rain. I've said this before. Blake from Daddy Curb's farm, you can attest, Houston, Texas is the hardest place, or South Texas, to garden in the United States. And I hold up to that. I'm kidding. But it's a very difficult place to garden. And the reason is we've had almost 60 inches of rain. Imagine a place where it rains every day. And that rain, as I'll show you in a second, has wreaked havoc on my composting and made it virtually impossible with the current environment that I have in my yard. So I'm going to be giving up on on composting, but I'm going to show you what I'm going to be doing instead to keep my plants healthy. So let me get you over to my tumbler and show you where the problems are. So here we are at my tumbler, and I have a stand-up tumbler which has the same issue as this, and here's my, a stand-up composter and a spin tumbler. Many of you have these at home, and you don't have the same issue I have. So when you live in an environment where it's very hot and humid, and it rains just about every day, again, we've had 60 inches of rain. That's twice the amount of Seattle, Washington, in a calendar year. The issue that I have is that if you look at a standard tumbler, let me give you a close-up here. You'll notice that most tumblers have slits or holes in them, okay? And the reason that is so your tumbler can get air into it and it doesn't get anorexic. It's going to be anaerobic, not anorexic. And the issue is when you get rain like we have in Houston, Texas, all these holes that allow air in to keep it from getting anaerobic, let water in, okay? And the issue that I have is I maintain a healthy carbon to nitrogen mix, but when it rains every single day, this is what you get. It's just soupy, okay? It's hard to see, but because there's a paper that I have in there to try to, but it'll never get to where you need. It rains way too much. So the bottom is compost, but it's just like soup. It's just too wet. And there's nothing that I can do to keep it from raining as much as it rains in Houston, Texas. The only thing I guess I could do is move to Southern California where my brother lives, and it never rains there. So you don't have that problem. Now, the other thing most of you are saying is, well, you can move this composter inside. Yes, you could. But remember what I said previously, it doesn't work with my environment. I don't have an inside place that I can put a tumbler which will attract flies, and it may, there's no way in heck my wife will let me bring this inside. So unfortunately, I am at a loss. I can add all the carbon, all the newspaper that I want. It will still end up soupy when you get 60 inches of rain. So I am unable to do this, and if I take a walk back here, you'll see my other, it's the same issue. See, I have this aerated 200 composting system. It's built to allow air in, okay, and you put compost in the top, okay, like such. The problem is there are holes in this that allows it to breathe and stay aerobic, not anaerobic. it's just a non-stop situation. If it's too wet and too soupy, it gets anaerobic. It doesn't work. So let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop composting. Now I still worm compost. Those stay in the garage and they stay under cover. There's no smell to them. But standard composting with kitchen scraps and newspaper and cardboard, I'm calling it quits. At least this year. It just won't work, because if we get the same amount of rain each year, I'll have the same soupy problem. So let me show you what I'm going to do to overcome this to help benefit my plants with organic compost. So you guessed it. Instead of using compost, spending the time to make my own compost, and having the frustration of having compost soup because of all the rain we have, I'm going with compost tea, okay? And what I chose so compost tea, as you know, you can put on every week. It's very difficult to over-fertilize your plants with compost tea. And so I took the plunge. I'm shutting down the composting. I'm going to show you what I do, steps I do to get compost tea. So there's a lot of compost tea products out there. The one I chose was a Boogie Brew. I don't endorse the product at all. I pay full price, full shipping, but it's worked pretty good for me. And I'll show you the results after I'm done. But I saw it, I think, once on John Kohler's show, and the guy who does Boogie Brew, I always am fascinated by people who are very different than I am. And the guy who always does the show for Boogie Brew with John are so 180 different than I am. It doesn't make him good or bad, it just makes him different. But I'm always interested with different people. So I saw his product, I thought I'd give it a try. It worked pretty well for me. So here we go again. I do not endorse the product. Use whatever compost tea you want. I'll show you how I do it. So one of the mistakes I was making before when I was doing compost tea is I wasn't getting this. I wasn't getting a carbon filter for home and garden use that you attach to your hose. So what I was basically doing was, we have low amounts of chlorine in our water. I use a 5-gallon bucket, which I have here. I fill it up with water, but I was filling it up with hose water, which has chlorine in it, which potentially could destroy the microbial elements of the compost tea, which is a bad thing. So everything I do right now, I use this filter to remove any hard metals and any chlorine to make sure the microbial elements that I have in my compost tea stay alive. And I'll show you what that looks like as I brew this for 24 hours, and you'll see what it looks like. But I would, wherever you get it, get one of these, and always water your plants with this so you don't kill the beneficial bacteria and microbial elements that you have in your compost tea. So Boogie Brew, what I like about them is they make it really easy, and they basically have a Boogie Boost and a Boogie Base, and all you have to do is use, I believe, a half cup of each, part A and B, and you put it into a burlap bag and you let it brew. So let me come back. I'll show you what it looks like when I put it in the burlap bag and the next steps for making compost tea. Anyway, so here we are back. Here's the 5-gallon bucket. Now, what you're going to need is an air pump, a pretty strong air pump. What I liked about Boogie Brew, and again, I don't get any money from them, is that they give you the pump and everything you need to get started. They have kind of a brew kit, which I think is kind of cool. Anyway, you'll need a relatively large 5-gallon bucket. You have the dechlorinated water in here. You've got your big air stone, which is pumping out, which helps brew and get oxygen to the elements of the compost tea. It really boosts that microbial action and positive bacteria. And then what they do is they give you a Boogie Boost, which is part B. You put a half a cup of this, and then you have a half a cup of Boogie Base. You put those both together in a burlap bag, which kind of serves as a tea bag. And all you simply do is you dump it in there, let it soak, put it down to the bottom, and you let that thing brew for 24 to 48 hours. And when you come back, and I'm going to come back in 24 hours, you'll see that, number one, you'll have this clear liquid, clear water, dechlorinated water, will be completely brown. In addition, what you'll see is a foam that starts to appear around the top. Kind of like you see like a sea foam that you see in the ocean, and that'll mean that you're getting positive action out of your compost tea. Now when you're brewing this, keep in mind you want to, for the most beneficial tea, you want the temperature to be between 65 and 75 degrees, and I think it'll be the best for your plant. So we'll come back in 24 hours and see what it looks like. You can see it's already starting to turn brown. So we'll see you in 24 hours. So here we are back after 24 hours. If you'll take a look at that, there's my 5-gallon bucket. You see the tea is brewing. This is known as actively aerated compost tea, as opposed to static tea, which is not aerated. So we're going to talk about the 3 things that are required to make great compost tea. The first is good compost. So you can't have junk in, junk out. So if you have good compost, whether it's your kitchen scraps or carbon materials, use good materials. Whatever you use, it has to be excellent materials, has to be full of beneficial microorganisms, okay? So that's the first step to great compost tea. Second is that you have to add certain nutrients that your microorganisms, like the fungi and the positive bacteria, are able to multiply. So in the bucket you're looking at right now that's brewing, there's billions, B with a B, not an M, billions of bacteria, fungi, and protozoa that are bubbling in there and brewing for my plants. So that's the second. So you need food for the microorganisms. And the third, what you need is oxygen. So air pumped into the water. What it does is it favors the beneficial bacteria and fungi over the negative bacteria and the pathogens that are in there. So by adding the oxygen, it allows those positive bacteria and fungi to multiply at unbelievable rates. And after 24 hours, you see that tea is very brown. It's loaded with positive bacteria. There's no smell to it. So it's aerobic, not anaerobic. And in the end, what I'm going to have here, as I said, I'm going to have billions of bacteria and fungi and protozoa and nematodes that can be sprayed onto either the leaves of the plants as a foliar spray, or placed into the soil or watered into the soil. So I do a little of both, but mostly I water mine into the soil. And when you put this compost tea into your plants, not only does it nourish them, but the positive bacteria, the fungi, the protozoa, and the nematodes also protect your plants from diseases that plants can get. And Lord knows in Houston, we certainly get our share of them. So I'm going to show you, I'm not going to show you me putting this into the plants. I think you know what that looks like. You know what it looks like spraying into a plant. I'm going to show you what my plants look like after feeding them this compost tea last week. Hold tight. So most of you know I have a green stalk garden, and I put some of this tea in there last week, and I got to show you, when you look at this, and I'll get up closer, but look how vibrant the color is and how healthy the plants are since I've been feeding it this compost tea. So take a look. Just absolutely brilliant color, and you see the color is kind of a nice waxy outlook to the Swiss chard, which is great. Same for the baby spinach leaves that I have right there. If you'll take a look at the baby spinach leaves, same thing, beautiful color, and the kale as well, a brilliant green. Now what you didn't see is the before and after. So before I put the compost tea on, it wasn't as brilliant green as it is right now, and hasn't grown as much. So there's no question that this works very well, and I will use compost tea once a week. So I hope this has been a helpful episode. Again, my fail has been doing compost. I just can't do it in a tropical rainforest like Houston. It rains way too much, saturates my compost, and it gets anaerobic. So I will shift from my fail to making and applying aerated compost tea on an ongoing basis. I hope this has been helpful for you. Again, I used a particular brand of compost tea. There's tens of different brands out there you can use, but research the brand carefully and make sure you get one that has the 3 important components that I talked about just a second ago. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so. Would love to have you as part of the community. And we'll see you next time. Everybody have a happy new year. Bye.